Hi guys, I'm Cecil. Welcome to the world of Pokemon. I know it doesn't need saying, but we live in a world filled with fascinating creatures known as Pokemon. I've always loved Pokemon. It kinda runs in the family, I guess. I'm heading to the Kelot Region to start a journey of my own to be a Pokemon professor. I'm gonna be sharing this journey with a couple of friends of mine I met online. They live in Kellot, so they might be able to show me around. I'm super interested in the fabled mist in the region, as well as the giant Pokemon that seem to roam around. Anyways, I gotta catch my flight. Peace out!
After confirming everything to do with the meetup with Cecil, your journey in Pokemon myth and Pokemon legend begins. Hey everyone, Matt here. Welcome to the Kelot Region, a Fakemon region based on Wales, with some other Celtic influences from out. I don't have a map to show yet, but I've got a whole host of Fakemon I can show you. But for today, I shall show you the starters. Before I continue, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share this video, to really push it out into the algorithm. Now, where were we? You start in Dovetown. You receive a call from your lifelong friend, Seren.
Hey there, bestie! I'm so excited for Cecil to visit. It'll be so good to finally be able to get our own Pokemon. I'm gonna become a champion. Just you wait. Anyways, I gotta get ready. Catch you later!
She hangs up and you talk with your mother, who is excited that you and Seren get to meet your friend from Kanto. You go to the cafe where the three of you agreed to meet up, and Cecil is already there. He's a little nervous but shakes your hand with a grin on his face.
Hey Alice, it's me, Cecil. I guess you already knew that. I wonder where...
Sorry I'm late! It's your gal, Seren. It's so good to finally meet you, Cecil.
Cecil shakes Seren's hand and then presents 3 Pokeballs.
I had to come with a gift. Don't worry though, my great gramps let me hand out these Pokemon, one for each of us. I'm not really fussed out about which one I get. I love them all, and I've already got my buddy Pichu, and you two don't have any.
Well, in that case, since I was late, how about Ellis picks first?
Your 3 choices are Folief, Flam, and Bubster. Starting with the grass type Folief. It's a horse! I decided to keep up with the theme theorized for grass starters, that being of extinct animals. The Manx horse is extinct. Plus, I'm not opposed to drawing some inspiration from the Isle of Man, such as the horse tramway in Douglas Bay, in the Isle of Man. It's the oldest tram route open for passengers ran by horse and cart still open today in the world. Horses are also abundant in Wales, which itself has a history of horse and cart tramways. Since transport is an essential service, and one may refer to essential workers as superheroes, this line is also inspired by superheroes. Folief is a sidekick, helping its final evolved form fight injustice. It even has leaves as a mask to resemble Robin from the Batman franchise, probably the most iconic sidekick of all time. Folief's name comes from foal, a young horse, and leaf. It also sounds a bit like foliage. Now for the fire starter, Flam. And before I start, I see you commenting about how I made a sheep fire starter, even though the Zodiac theory is dead. Regardless of that point, come on, a sheep starter just makes sense for Wales. Sheep outnumber humans in Wales 10-3. I did want to make this lamb look, well, more like a lamb. The 2 Sheepmon we already have are super fluffy in their base stage, but this one I wanted to be more representative of lambs. The wool also looks a bit like smoke, because fire type. The name comes from flame, lamb, and the 2 A's in the name come from the onomatopoeia for the sound a sheep makes, ba. Finally, the water starter, Bubster. So this is new, right? Pokemon has never had a crustacean as a starter before, but I think they could really work. Bubster is a lobster carrying a bubble. I don't need to explain the name now. This does make it shorter than the other starters, but baby lobsters are usually tiny anyways. Also, we've not had a 3-stage lobstermon yet, so it helps with proportions. Its theming will be more clear later, but lobsters are populous in the coasts of Wales and nearby places such as Cornwall. Let's take a pause from the starters to discuss who on earth these characters are. This is you. And if you don't like that, you can customize so the player character looks more like you, no matter what your drip, skin and eye color, pronoun preference, and hairstyle is like. By default, the avatar's name is Ellis. It's a name boys, girls, and the rest can have. And it's common in Wales. I wanted to dress them in a way teenagers tend to dress, but without making it gendered. This can inadvertently make the design look more masculine, but facial details plus alternate hairstyles can make Ellis look more feminine for all the girlies in the audience. Speaking of customization, your clothing options are as expressive as in Sword and Shield, but everything else visually is like Scarlet and Violet. Also, a pronoun selection option. Basically, are you a boy or a girl? And if you're neither, that's fine too. And if you're offended by that, just be a girl or a boy and grow up. Speaking of a girl and a boy, let's talk about your 2 rivals. Let's start with Seren. If you're commenting that her name's too similar to Serena, I don't think that matters. We've got a Barry and a Larry, a Price and a Bryson. Seren is pronounced differently to Serena. Also, Her name means star, hence the star motif in her design. Also, yes, she's a wheelchair user. I thought it would be interesting to explore this as a dynamic. She's not going to let the challenges the world throws at wheelchair users stop her on her quest to become a champion. I consulted a friend of mine, who is a wheelchair user and Welsh, about how to take Seren as a character, so I hope I did her justice. And then there's Cecil Oak. Yeah, he's Blue's kid. Blue is an adult by the time of the Alola games, and some time has passed since then. There's definitely room to add in Cecil. The idea came from how professors are usually named after trees, and the Welsh national tree is called the Cecil Oak, although that is spelt differently, with the Cecil part meaning immobile, which does thematically relate to Cecil as a character, as he does not want to be stuck on one path despite the fame of his family and the expectations put on him as a result. The Cecil Oak is also known as the Welsh Oak. Cecil is also a Welsh name, so it all works. The Cecil Oak was the seed, if you pardon the pun, of the idea behind Cecil as a character. As I mentioned, his family has a legacy, and that would be quite daunting. He wants to follow the footsteps of his great-grandfather, but he wants to do it on his own terms. I like how Cecil wanting to become a professor parallels Seren wanting to become the champion. I suppose, in their own separate ways, both rivals don't let the circumstances of their birth define who they are. They are also not swayed by said circumstance, both determined to achieve their goals. Speaking of goals, my goal is to grow my channel to share all of the Mon I've made for the region. So although being subscribed is good, becoming a patron or YouTube member would help immensely. Assuming you have the means to, of course. Becoming a member gives you access to the next video in this series, so become one today to see how it continues. Links down below. Anyways, let's evolve the starters, all of which do so at level 17. Let's evolve Bobster. Why was it carrying bubbles? Well, in aid of lobbery, of course. Its name comes from lobster and robbery. The line is based on pirates, many of whom come from Wales and Cornwall. Because the pirate inspiration is more clear now, I felt it should gain the Dark type. So many people in the Fakemon community looked at the Kalos, Alola, and now Paldea starters and went, every starter should be Monotype and gain a second type in their final stage. Even I did previously. I felt like changing it up this time. Anyways, Lobbery is your typical subordinate pirate in appearance. The bubble bandana sells this along with the shirt. Evolving Foleaf gets you the Grass Electric type Zoomer. It's an edgy superhero. This line generally takes from the trope of speedsters in the superhero genre, the hero most famous for this being the Flash, and the trope of laser vision, the hero most famous for that being Superman. Speed is associated with the electric type, and laser vision is the reason why Luxray is electric type, so I felt this was an interesting route to go down. Superhero media evolved over time, from light and optimistic to dark and brooding to, well, you'll see when it evolves. And this is paralleled in Zoomer, much like the journey of Robin in the Batman comics. Dick Grayson and Jason Todd started out as plucky sidekicks, but became their own dark, edgy personas, Nightwing and Red Hood respectively. So it made sense for Zoomer to have an edgier design. Its name comes from Zoom, because it's fast, and Mare, a female horse. This isn't meant to be the quote-unquote feminine design though. Flam is. It evolves into Ballet, and yes, this one is standing, but it makes sense for a ballet dancer. Also, its name is just Ballet but with ba in it. If you don't like that I made a starter stand on 2 legs, the others stand on 4, so it checks out. Anyways, what's its secondary type? You know, the fact that I've not said it yet is quite concerning. Wait, no, it can't be! I'm not sorry. Dancing tends to be best represented in Pokemon through the fighting type. The other dancing starter we have is fighting type, so it just makes sense. Plus, it's been over a decade since the last firefighting starter. It's not a big deal. Dancing is a tradition that the Welsh have partaken in for centuries, so it only makes sense. Let's move on to the final stages, which are obtained when reaching level 35. Continuing with my train of thought, Ballerina is now fully feminine. The feminine expression is intended to be a way to say to society, I own my femininity despite your taboos. Also, it's meant to be the cute final Evo. Its head has a fire plumage to resemble a flapper, another kind of dancer, typically from around the 1920s, which fits with the idea I wanted to present with femininity. The name also obviously comes from bar and ballerina. Its other design features and inspirations I will cover when I cover the rest of the final stages, but I will mention one more thing. This whole time, Ballerina and its pre-evolutions have their wool resemble smoke, as I said to begin with. Admittedly for Ballerina, which was designed first, it was hard to get the balance right. If the wool was too dark, it would have looked dark type. That would have conflicted with Corsair here. A Corsair is another term for a pirate, and it has claws. Speaking of, if Lobbery was Shmee, then Corsair is Captain Hook. Although, Captain Hook is an example of a problematic trope of the disabled villain. I don't want to say it's wrong to like him as a villain, on the contrary. But so many villains have a scar, a lost limb, severe injuries, the inability to walk, amongst other things, where I do need to address it, regardless of how well done an example of it is. Corsair isn't a villain, although is dark type because it is a pirate. Its colour scheme reflects this, with much darker blues to represent both its types. Now, the hook hand, eye patch, and peg leg are all iconic tropes of many pirate designs, but as I said earlier, that would be insensitive, or at least be yet another example of an insensitive stereotype. I don't want to be supporting the disabled community with one design, but harming them with another. So one of its claws has a more prominent curve to resemble a hook, one of its eyes is darker and closed to allude to an eye patch, and it doesn't have complete legs, representing them as bubbles. I'll elaborate on this in a bit. The rest of its design emulates a traditional pirate outfit with its hat, as well as a coat-like design. Some pirates are represented with feathers on their hat, but the bubbly antennae on Corsair is a good substitute for this. Let's end off where we began. The final evolution to Foal Leaf and Zoomare, that being Buck-Hero, named after bucking, a movement horses do, as well as hero, since it's a superhero. It also sounds a bit like Buckaroo, which is another term for a cowboy who rides horses, and were kind of the original superheroes in pop culture. It's also the name of a popular toy/game to do with a horse, as you may already know. The mask from the base stage evolved from eye mask to cowl to helmet with 2 eye holes and 1 hole for the nose and mouth. So Buck-Hero is very Flash-coded, and maybe a bit of Superman, and DC's Captain Marvel, also known as Shazam. But that's because of the speedster and laser vision tropes I mentioned earlier. I did debate on having a cutie mark, a la My Little Pony, but the chest symbol was too important to remove, and it just looked too detailed with both. Its mane is very big and golden, almost Super Saiyan in nature, with even more lightning bolt shapes, as are its hooves, developing from what you can see in Zoomare's design. Actually, speaking of the feet, all of the final stages have their feet enveloped with an element that makes up one of their types. Buck-Hero has electricity, Ballerina has fire, and Corsair has bubbles, which are made of water. So that's a shared design element which some trios have, but all trios since Gen 4 at the latest have had a design theme linking them all together. So what about the Kellot trio? Well, Buck-Hero is a superhero, Corsair is a pirate, and Ballerina is, well, a ballerina, but with some flapper inspiration too. All of these are commonly worn as Halloween costumes. If you're not going to wear anything horror themed, you'll probably go for something referencing pop culture, i.e. superheroes and pirates, or something that liberates your masculinity or femininity that society wouldn't traditionally allow. Ballerina went the same route, because Pokémon is a game for children, so please don't ask about those kinds of outfits. All 3 base stages are the rookie stage of all of these professions, with Foal Leaf as a sidekick, Vlam as an uninterested student, and Bubster as a regular crew member. And the middle stages are just the transitionary steps from rookie to the ultimate goal the final stages represent. Zoomare is the edgy superhero that some sidekicks become, or the edgy depictions of heroes from the dark age of comics, the films evoking it, and the edgy reboot era. Ballet is a dancing apprentice, trying to perfect the craft to the point of becoming tired, and Lobbery is the first mate in Corsair's crew. There's also a naming scheme shared by them all. The first stages are something to do with their type, possibly even part of their design, bind to the baby version of the animal they are. A baby lobster is just a small lobster. Their middle stages combine a word associated with the original animal, as well as something they do. The final stages do a similar thing to the middle stage, but instead of something they do, the names reference what they are. I'm really proud of this trio, and hopefully I've made your choice hard. Let's finish off the video where we left our heroes off, with your finishing your battle with Seren, who then gets you to battle Cecil, which you win.
You know, I never felt battling came naturally to me. I like studying Pokemon more. When your dad is the champion, that's a lot to live up to. As if following in my great-grand's footsteps wasn't enough pressure.
Oh, sorry. You don't have to battle me if you don't want to.
Don't worry about it. Although, I think we should go off and catch some Pokemon.
Alice and I should probably go tell our families we're off on an adventure. My dad's probably gonna try to talk me out of it. Like, I know the gym challenge would be very hard for me, but I think I can do it despite the obstacles ahead of me.
I'll come with you for backup, in case you need it.
Thanks, mate.
Once you tell your mother, your journeys begin, and the Kelot region is all yours to explore.